Hi there, this is Mrs. Lawson, one of the Algebra 1 teachers, and I'm going to be discussing with you Chapter 4 review. And before we get started, most of the questions we're going to be asking are going to be referring to the shape, the center, and the spread. So just remember, as far as the shape goes, we're going to be looking to see if it's symmetrical, if it's skewed to the right, and if it's skewed to the left. Then we're going to be addressing the center, which is mean, median, mode, and you can answer a lot about mean, median, and mode based on the shape of it. So these are all things that were covered with you in your classes. And we'll also, when we discuss the shape, I should have added this, talk about the peaks and give it some names. And then we'll be talking about the spread. And so basically what we will focus on is the range and the IQR. And then I'll be referring back to this pink page as we go through these. So on the first four, we just want to discuss the shape, the center, and the spread. So starting with the shape, I'm actually going to go into the peaks. So just showing you this page again one more time. With the peaks, we're looking for, there might be one mode, it's unimodal, two modes, it's bimodal. If it's symmetrical, then it's called bell-shaped, because there's one mode. And then there's uniform, which just means there wasn't a mode. Pretty much everything's the same. So we're looking for one peak or two peaks. This definitely has one clear peak, and it's not symmetrical. So we're going to call this unimodal. And we're also going to call this, because if I kind of do this, skewed to the left. It's not that far off from being symmetrical, but I would definitely say that this is more skewed left than anything else. So from there, I'm going to go into the center, and if we compare our mean and our median and our mode, since it's skewed left, we're going to be putting in less than signs. So the median is going to be less than the mode, and the mean is going to be less than the median, which then that also means that the mean is less than the mode. And as far as we talk about the range, the only thing I'm going to address here is the difference between the biggest piece of data and the smallest piece of data. So this goes all the way up to 250, and it goes all the way down to 100. And so I can share with this that I have at least a range of 150. All right, the next one. So the way this shape is going, it goes up, and then this line is going all the way here. So as far as my shape goes, again, I'm going to call it one mode. I'm going to call it unimodal. As far as the other part of the shape, I'm going to call it skewed right, because the tail on this side is much longer than the tail on this side. And once I know the shape, I can go into the center. And this time I'm not going to write out mean, median, and mode. I'm just going to put M is for mean, M is for median, that M is for mode. And since it's skewed right, I'll be putting the arrows here. So for instance, the mean is bigger than the median, and the median is bigger than the mode. And then the last thing I'll talk about is the range. And I'll go for my highest number, which is 100, my lowest number, which is 0. I can subtract those. So I get a range of 100. And sorry, range, I don't think I said it here, is addressing the spread. So that goes together. Let me add that over here. Okay. The next one with books read last summer. Again, the shape, I've got one mode, so we're going to call it unimodal. And if I kind of draw this, I got a tail that's going much further to the right, so it's skewed right. So as far as the center goes, again, when I compare my mean, I'll write it out this time, to my median, to my mode, since it's skewed right, I'll put these arrows to the right, which means the mean is going to be bigger than the median, and the median will be bigger than the mode. As far as the spread goes, again, the only thing I'm going to address here is the highest data point and the lowest data point. So I have a spread of 9. And the last one, this is box and whisker plot, number of eggs laid. So as far as the shape goes, when we address the shape, we're talking from the middle in this length versus this length, which they really aren't too far off. So as far as the shape goes, I'm going to actually say that this is closer to being symmetrical than it is to being skewed left or skewed right. Since I can't, see the actual data points like I could on the others, I will not be able to tell you if it's unimodal, bimodal, no mode. We don't have enough data for that. As far as the center goes then, since this is symmetrical, we're going to say that the mean is equal to the median is equal to the mode. They should all be very close to each other. They might be a little off, but not by much. And then when I go for the spread, and I want to discuss the range, which again, this number over here, boy, I'm messing up on spread. That was the range. My highest data point is 10. My lowest data point is 2. So I have a range of 8. But since I have a box and whisker plot, I can also address the IQR, the interquartile range, which I take the upper quartile, 8, and I can subtract the lower quartile of 3 and get an IQR of 5. So that's just kind of the refresher of what this whole chapter was about. Let's go through a few more questions. Sorry, I know that's bouncing. All right, so we have 2 box and whisker plots, and these represent the cost of houses sold in each of 2 towns over the past 5 years. So we got 2 towns, Bartlett and Saline. This is in thousands of dollars, so 130 is 130,000, 90 is 90,000. So I won't be using 90 in 110. I'll be making sure that I address it in thousands. So give an estimate for the median home price in each town. So just a reminder of how a box and whisker plot goes. This is your lowest data point. This is your highest data point. And then you have your 3 quartiles. This is quartile 1. This is quartile 3, and the middle is quartile 2, also known as the median. Okay? So when I want to give an estimate for the median for each town, so for Oregon, for the town in Oregon, it is somewhere in between 130 and 150, so I'm going to say it's about, sorry about that, $140,000. And when I go for the Georgia town, the median is right about here. It's not quite 130, but we're just going to estimate it as the directions said. So which of these 2 had a lower median? Oregon has a lower median price. All right, what do you expect the mean home price in the mean home price in Bartlett, Oregon to be greater than or less than the median? Since we're doing a comparison, this is all going to be based on is it skewed left or skewed right. So I'm going to go look at my box and whisker plot for Bartlett, Oregon, and this is definitely, this stretch is shorter than this stretch. So from here, this is definitely skewed right. And that means I can address my mean, my median, and my mode, and since it's skewed right, these can point to the right. So I would expect the mean to be greater than the median. So that's all I'm writing here. The mean should be greater than the median. All right, next one. Now I want to compare. I'm going to start comparing between the 2. So I want to compare the spread. So I'm going to talk specifically about the range and the IQR, and I'm going to compare the shape. So is it skewed versus symmetric? So let's actually start with the shape. So as far as shape goes, I would say, in my opinion, that Bartlett, Oregon is skewed right, which we already discussed, but Georgia is more symmetric. So I'm going to say Oregon is skewed right. We're using the appropriate vocab. So, and Georgia is symmetric. Might not be perfectly symmetric, but it's pretty symmetric. Now, as far as when I get into the spread, I first want to address the range. So the range, I want to find the range of Oregon's town and of Georgia's town. So I'm just going to do a little bit of math up here. So right now, the range for this data point is 230,000. That's my highest. And then I'm going to subtract my lowest, which is about 90,000. So that's going to give me a range of 4,000. And then I'll take care of this one. So this highest data point is 210,000. The lowest is about 50,000. So if I subtract those, and I said 4,000, I'm sorry, 40,000, not 4,000. And that's not even right. Hold on, we'll fix that. But if I take 210,000 and I subtract 50,000, then I get 160,000. All right, I really messed up on my math here, so we're going to come back up here. So 230 minus 90,000 is 140,000. I left my one off. So as far as I compare that, the range for Georgia is bigger than the range for Oregon. So the range for, I'm going to abbreviate, Georgia is bigger. When you're comparing, you want to use bigger, smaller, great, or equal to, bigger than Oregon. And you can even get more specific by $20,000. So the range for Georgia, you can read it, is bigger than Oregon by $20,000. The other thing that I can address, since I do have the IQR, a box and whisker plot, is the IQR. So here in a different color, I'll just find the IQR, so the difference between the highest quartile and the smallest quartile. So this one, I would say, is about 160,000. And down here, this is 110,000. And when I just subtract those two, then the IQR here is going to be 50,000. So I'll just write that here. And if I take this larger amount, 170,000, and subtract 90,000, now my difference is 60,000. So here, for instance, I could say that Georgia has a bigger IQR than Oregon. So I'll stick that right here. So Georgia has a bigger, larger IQR than Oregon, I'm abbreviating, by a difference of $10,000. Okay, so hopefully you can see all of that. Number 6, or D, based on the plots above, is it possible to determine how many homes were sold in Georgia over the past years? That is one of the downfalls of the box and whisker plot. You can't actually see how many houses were here or here or here or here. So is it possible? No. There's not enough data. What percentage of homes in Georgia were sold for $90,000? So the other thing about a box and whisker plot is this is 100% of the data. So this whisker here is 25% of the data. This little box is 25% of the data. This is 25% of the data. And then this is 25% of the data. So there's 100% of the data. So what percentage of homes in Saline, Georgia were over 90,000? Then we're looking here. So that would be 75,000, or 75% of the homes.